Hey, welcome back. Let's move along through our animals by next looking at the Phylum Cnidarian. So all animals except for the sponges are the eumetazoan. So everything past this branch is a eumetazoan or a true animal. That U means true animal. This means animals with tissues. So Cnidarians and everything else we're going to talk about are animals with tissues. Cnidarians originated about 680 million years ago, and they tend to have radial symmetry. So you can see here, you could draw a line almost anywhere, divide it into two equal halves. It doesn't have a distinct right and left side. They are diploblastic, so they form with just those two tissues during gastrulation, and they have a gastrovascular cavity. That's what's up here. Instead of having an alimentary canal with a mouth and an anus, they have one opening that goes into their mouth, and one opening that is their mouth. They goes into their gastrovascular cavity. They digest their food, and undigested bits come right back out through that same opening. That opening is going to be both mouth and anus. Cnidarians include corals, jellies, and hydras. So here is an anemone. The fish, of course, is not a cnidarian, but the anemone is. Cnidarians tend to be carnivores, and they have tentacles that are able to help capture their prey. They are armed with something called a cnidocyte. And these are cells that help both in defense of the animal and also to capture their food. And they contain cnidae that can explode out of the cnidocytes. And the nematocysts are specialized cnidae that eject a stinging thread. So you see this thread coming out to help capture their prey here. So an animal that bumps into the trigger of the nematocyst will trigger it to burst out. Here is a hydra eating a daphnia.
The opening scene of this clip shows a daphnia, commonly called a water flea, on the left, and a hydra, a sessile animal in the phylum Cnidaria, on the right.
This is the hydra right
here. Like most cnidarians, a hydra possesses a ring of tentacles that surrounds its mouth. The mouth leads to a gastrovascular cavity with only one opening. Hydra, like most cnidarians, have highly specialized stinging cells called nematocysts. Some of these stinging cells inject a type of venom that paralyzes the hydra's prey, allowing its tentacles to surround and draw the prey into the mouth. The video shows the daphnia being immobilized and the hydra ingesting the prey into its gastrovascular cavity. The food is then broken down into small particles that are engulfed by phagocytosis by the cells lining the gastrovascular cavity. Credit courtesy of Graham R. Kent and Rebecca L. Turner, Smith College.
Here is asexual reproduction occurring in hydra. So this is the parent hydra, and here you can see this little bud, this little branch of a little baby hydra that's going to break off and form a complete new organism. So here is a bud, here's bud. Budding, if you remember from last semester, is a form of asexual reproduction, and this is one way that hydra are able to reproduce. In an cnidarian body plan, you have a gastrovascular cavity, and this is lined with a tissue called the gastrodermis. Okay, then on the outer layer, this dark blue layer here in both pictures, is the epidermis that covers the outer surface of the body. Then there's this light blue stuff called the mesoglia. This mesoglia is a jelly-like substance, and it's between the epidermis and the gastrodermis. And you can see there's two different versions of this body plan that they have. One is a polyp. This one's a polyp. It's kind of cylindrical. It's mostly sessile. Do you remember that word sessile? It means it's attached. So it'll be attached to a substrate. The arboreal surface here is what's going to be attached. The mouth anus side is facing upwards. There's also a medusa, which is slightly more flattened, but kind of flipped upside down version of the polyp, but flattened a little bit more, and the mouth and anus are facing downward. The polyp tends to be attached to a surface, where the medusa form would be something like a jellyfish that is more likely to just kind of float through the water. It might be able to actively move itself a little bit also. So at this point, you should be able to compare and contrast the polyp stage and the medusa form of cnidarians. Some animals, I do want to throw this out there, some animals will either be a polyp all their life or a medusa all their life. Many of them, though, can change from one stage of their life cycle to another at another stage of their life cycle. Here's a jellyfish swimming, one of our cnidarians.
This is a moon jelly, Aurelia aurita. These jellies are quite common along the Atlantic coast of the United States and the Bahamas. The medusa form, shown here, predominates in the jelly life cycle. As members of the phylum Cnidaria, jellies have only 2 layers of tissue, which are separated by an acellular layer called the mesoglia. The gelatinous consistency of the mesoglia gives jellies their name. The tentacles you can see hanging downward contain nematocysts, stinging cells that can be discharged upon contact with another organism. Toxins in the nematocysts can paralyze the prey so that they can be ingested through the jelly's centrally located mouth and then digested in its bag-like gastrovascular cavity. The 4 white rings in the center of the bell are the gonads, where the gametes will form. Jellies can reproduce either asexually by budding or sexually. Credit National Geographic.
I always feel a little chipped on that picture, like what's going to happen to the turtle? We keep seeing that turtle. Okay, irrelevant though. Here are thimble jellies. How beautiful they are. There are some different clades within the cnidarians. That means different lineages within them. The medusozoans are organisms that can produce a medusa at any time during their life cycle. Maybe not the entire life cycle, but at some point they go through a medusa cycle. This includes things like jellyfish, box jellies like the sea wasp, and hydrozoans. Then the anthozoans only have polyps. They will include the sea anemone and the star corals. They spend their entire life sessile, attached to a surface. They never have a medusa stage. And then here's a coral reef. So your textbook talks about how coral reefs are important ecologically within the ocean. Like if you think of a rainforest, the function of trees, coral reefs are doing the same thing there. They are producing a home. They are kind of the backbone around which that whole environment is based on, and how coral reef decline has a major impact on the health of our oceans. So you can see lots of other organisms here live within the reef. We have fish, and we have lots of life within here. Okay, so we'll pick it up in our next video talking about our bilaterians, especially start with our lophotrochozoans. So I will see you in a little bit. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye for now.